I'm worried my fiance, 34, male, is attracted to my stepbrother, 18, male. I feel disgusted even thinking about this, but I can't stop worrying. We're due to spend Christmas Day with my family tomorrow and I'm dreading it because of this issue. I'm going to use fake names to make it less confusing. My stepbrother Tim, 18, male, has been part of my family since he was a little boy. I, 33, female, am obviously quite a bit older than him, but we have always been very close. Even though we aren't related by blood, he's always been my little brother. I have been with my fiance Mike for 10 years, so he knows Tim very well and he has always been very fond of him. They have always spent time together joking and playing around, so that's not weird. I have always thought Mike saw Tim as a little brother. Tim has always been a sweet, bubbly type of kid. He's very friendly and affectionate. He went through a period when he was around 16 when he seemed quite sad and withdrawn. Then when he was 17 he came out as bisexual and he seemed much more happy and confident once he opened up. Lately he has been back to his usual self. I've noticed he can be quite flirty with certain people, usually my friends. I don't think he means anything by it. It seems like he just finds it fun and enjoys getting some attention. He's a very good looking boy and people tend to flirt back. I've had to tell off a few of my friends, but there's only been one occasion when someone has been seriously out of line. I had to cut out one of my female friends entirely. Tim doesn't direct his flirtiness at Mike. However, over the last few months I've noticed Mike tends to involve himself when Tim is having those kinds of interactions with someone else. It wasn't blatant enough to say for sure it was intentional, but it was enough that I noticed and started being more watchful. Since then I've noticed other things. Mike can be quite physical with Tim, hugging him, ruffling his hair, tickling him. That wasn't unusual when Tim was younger, but he's 18 now and it seems slightly out of place. Mike has asked him some really personal questions about sex, then acted like he was just kidding around to embarrass Tim when I told him to cut it out. Edited to add. A commenter elsewhere suggested I should include an example of what he asks in my main post. He has asked Tim how he masturbates or what he thinks about when he's doing it. To me that's totally inappropriate. Then recently there have been two separate occasions when I've noticed Mike browsing Tim's Instagram, which has a lot of photos of him. Then he seemed guilty when he saw I was there. I know it doesn't sound like much, but I get such a strange vibe from Mike when he's around Tim and I can't ignore it. Am I going crazy? I feel so uncomfortable about this. The fact that my fiance might be attracted to someone else is one part of it, but I am more worried by the fact it's my little brother who's still practically a kid. Part of me hopes I might be imagining things because of what happened with the friend I cut out, but I'm just not sure. What can I do? If I ask Mike about this, he's going to go ballistic regardless of whether or not it's true. I know Tim wouldn't dream of doing anything with him and I'm confident he'd tell me if Mike was inappropriate. TLDR. I'm concerned my fiance might be attracted to my younger stepbrother and I don't know how to address it. Edited to add. I didn't make this clear, but Mike has never given any indication that he's interested in men. Relevant comments. 1. We've been together for 10 years and were friends for a couple years before that. He's probably known Tim since he was 7-8, I think. I agree that more information might have been helpful. Honestly, I don't even like thinking about some of the things he said. I find it really disturbing. He's still a kid to me and he's my brother. 2. At the moment they don't usually spend time together if I'm not around. When Tim was a younger kid, Mike used to take him to do activities sometimes, but that never seemed anything other than brotherly. I don't want to imagine that Mike would have been weird around him when he was little. There isn't any evidence that he was, and it's such a vile thought to have about someone you care about. 3. What happened with my friend? She started by being flirty and joking around when he was 16, making comments about his looks, saying how cute he is, that type of thing. She started secretly texting him for months on end, getting more and more inappropriate. I saw the text after it all came out and it was very clear that Tim was not trying to steer it in that direction. Eventually she ended up convincing him to let her teach him how to do a particular sex act. Right after that he came to me and told me everything because he felt guilty. I understand that 17 is technically above the age of consent where we live and he wasn't forced. I still think it's absolutely vile and I will never forgive her. She's 20 years older than him and she's known him since he was 6 years old. I'll always blame myself for not noticing what was going on or protecting him. Update. Well, things have certainly changed and he'll be in for a wild ride. We all spent Christmas Day together. To cut a long story short, we had a huge argument which led me to believe my suspicions were correct and we are not currently on speaking terms. I'm staying with family but they are unaware of the whole story. I'll try not to make this unnecessarily complicated. Please ask if anything is unclear. I didn't have a chance to speak to anyone in my family about my concerns before we all spent Christmas together and it didn't seem like it would be appropriate timing anyway. Mike and I were due to spend the day at my mom and stepdad's home. My Tim still lives there full time. We live nearby so we weren't staying over. My mom mentioned the day before that Tim was inviting a friend whose family doesn't celebrate. That isn't an unusual situation, so I didn't think anything of it. When Mike and I arrived, Tim's friend was already there. They were both very friendly and polite, then after a while they went to play video games together in the main seating area. It was quite obvious they either liked each other or were already dating. They were awkwardly flirting with each other and holding hands when they thought no one was looking. Everyone, apart from Mike, thought it was cute. Mike was extremely quiet and snappy for more or less the entire time we were there. He was drinking more than usual. I was driving so I didn't drink at all and my parents only had a drink or two so it stood out. He snapped at me when I asked what was wrong and when I suggested he slow down. It was very uncomfortable. My mom and Tim were both getting anxious. Tim's friend seemed confused. My stepdad was obviously losing patience with Mike's behavior. We ended up leaving right after dinner because I was so uncomfortable and he was silent the whole journey home. When we got back I asked him what the hell his problem was. I don't remember precisely what was said, so I'm mostly paraphrasing. He said he guessed that he was the only one who noticed what a rude little shit Tim was being, and that he ignored everyone and spent the whole day making out with his friend. He used a very aggressive tone of voice and sarcastic air quotes when he said friend. I told him that was totally untrue, and even if it wasn't, I couldn't understand why he would be so irate about my little brother paying more attention to his friend than him. I asked him why he's been so weird about Tim, but I made absolutely no reference to the specific concerns I've been having. Mike completely lost his temper and said, "Are you saying you think I want to FK your little brother?" or something similar. It was a bizarre outburst, and he said some very unpleasant, graphic things which he decided I was accusing him of. This was unprompted by me, and I don't see how he would have jumped straight to that conclusion unless there was an element of truth to it. I don't remember exactly what I said in response. I didn't really challenge him, and I told him he was scaring me. He went to the spare room and slammed the door. I drove back to my parents' place and told them we had a fight. I've been staying there since. I told Mike we need to talk, and he said I agree, but he's barely been in contact and hasn't responded to any of my suggestions of when we could talk. I have no idea what's happening. My family is obviously aware something is wrong, but I haven't fully explained it and I don't know how. They have noticed it's directed at Tim, but they seem to think it's due to homophobia rather than anything else. Tim is upset and worried. I really don't know how honest I should be with him. I don't even know for sure what Mike's issue is. I have told him he's done nothing wrong and it's Mike's problem. Obviously Mike and I haven't made any decision about our relationship because we've barely spoken. It doesn't look positive. I don't know if I could feel the same about him after how he's behaved. His strange behavior around Tim is also one of several things I've been worried about, and his outbursts scared me no matter what caused it. I don't know what the hell to do. I'm open to suggestions. Thanks. More info. I'm not sure where to start, as I wasn't expecting anywhere near this many comments, but I wanted to address some of the points being raised. I know I've been sent some private messages, but I can't read them without using the app, and I'm paranoid that if I use the app it will link this to my main account. A lot of people suggested Mike may have harmed Tim in some way when he was younger. I can't say for sure, I haven't asked Tim. Obviously I don't want to believe that could have happened, but I realize even people we love and trust can sometimes be capable of doing awful things. I never had any concerns about how Mike acted when Tim was younger. There were also a lot of things going on for time that we are already aware of that explain why he was sad and withdrawn. I've never had any impression before now that Mike was confused about his sexuality. If that's something he's struggling with, it's possible that that's what's causing him to lash out. I've also never known him to be homophobic, but I can't 100% rule that out as a possibility either. As bad as it sounds, homophobia would be preferable to the alternatives. I posted this as a comment, but I'll add it here. When I say Tim is flirty, I don't mean he's sexually inappropriate in any way. He's an awkward teenage boy. It's mainly things like expressions and body language. It's obvious because he's not very good at it. It's normal for teenagers to act like that at times. It doesn't bother me too much if people think it's funny or cute, but grown adults should be able to restrain themselves around a teenage boy batting his eyelashes at them. Not literally, but hopefully you get my point. If he crossed any lines or did anything to make someone uncomfortable or himself unsafe, obviously I would speak to him about that, but to my knowledge he's never come close. I will talk to my parents and Tim today. I just need to figure out what to say. I agree that honesty is best. I'll look into legal advice on how to move forward with Mike. Obviously we aren't yet married. We don't have kids, pets, or a mortgage. We do have a shared tenancy and a joint account for bills, but that's it. I don't think the relationship has a future regardless of where his anger is coming from. I still want to speak to him though. Update 2. Okay, so I just spoke to Mike. I received a text from Mike saying he wants to talk but wants to explain in writing first to allow him to express himself calmly. He said, "I know what you think this is and I understand why, but I promise it's not like that." He then told me he sent an email and asked me to read it before speaking. I'm paraphrasing because it was a long personal email. He said he experienced confusion about his sexuality when he was a little younger than Tim is now. It went badly. A close friendship ended, and he ended up never addressing those feelings and ignoring that part of himself. Tim coming out brought out a lot of confusing feelings. He admitted that he did initially believe he was attracted to Tim, jealous of people Tim was interested in. He admitted he did think about him sexually. He said he never would have acted on this, and he was disgusted with himself for thinking that way, which caused even more difficult feelings. He said he now realizes that he is envious because he regrets never exploring when he was Tim's age, and seeing him now makes him feel bitter, especially seeing him with his boyfriend. He apologized for his behavior and for lashing out the way he did, and he said he hopes we can talk. I haven't replied. I plan to talk to him. I have a lot of questions. His explanation makes sense in some ways, but I don't know if I'm comfortable with it. It doesn't change the angry outbursts, or the fact that he thought about my little brother sexually. I don't know if that's something I can accept and move on from. He asked me not to speak to my parents or Tim before speaking to him first. I haven't said yes or no. I understand why he's asking, but I feel like I need Tim's perspective. Relevant comments. 1. I don't think I can be in a relationship with him. I'm glad he's being, at least somewhat, honest, and I hope he's genuine, that he would never have tried anything with Tim, but his explanation doesn't change how he's behaved or the fact that he thought about someone who treats him as a big brother in that kind of way. 2. That's true. The fact that he's had those kinds of thoughts is utterly disturbing. I remember the first time they met, Tim threw up on him because he ate too much ice cream and Mike pushed him too fast on a roundabout. I can't fathom how you could see someone in a sexual light when you've known them since they were a little kid. He's basically still a kid now. He might be old enough to vote, but he still seems like a young boy to me. When he was with his friend, maybe BF on Christmas Day, they spent the whole day playing Pokemon. giggling and sneakily holding hands. Then when Mike ranted at me afterwards, he said they were making out all day and the friend was all over him, which isn't even close to the truth. Why does he have to think of him in a sexual way, especially when nothing sexual is happening? It's disgusting. Thanks for watching. This story is far from over and part 2 is linked in the description, as well as the pinned comment.